living in that and 12 that have deceased. At this time, I'd like to take a moment of silence, please, to remember the inductees that we lost this past year. Howard House, which is inductee of 2007, Bud Honeycat of 2004, and his wife Keat also passed away. Dwayne Isaac of our class of 2017, Jay Lyle of the class of 2012, Dale Moore of the class of 2011, Bob Reber of the class of 2022, Ken Simon of the class of 2021, Gary Truelove of the class of 2020, Bill Oots of the class of 2012. We would also like to take a moment we lost Bob and Harriet Reed this year also. Okay, so if we could have a moment of silence, please. Okay, at this time, I would like to announce the board of the Hall of Fame. So as I announce your name, would you please come to the front, please? Vice President J.D. Cormack. Treasurer Brian Jackson. Brian, could you come up front, please? Secretary Brenda Johnson. My board members are Marla Christie, Ray Cunningham, Rick Darling, John Lane, Teresa Osman, T.O., and Darren Woodward. And for those that do not know me, my name is Karen Darling, and I am the president. So if you guys would come forward, please. T.O., come up just a minute, please. That's T.O. Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it. Okay, at this time, I'd like to acknowledge our past inductees that are here, and then representatives that are here for our inductees that have passed away. Okay, so as I announce your name, if you can, please stand. I'm sorry. John Backlund, class of 2004. Where's John? Okay. I have Carl Castor here to represent his dad, Larry Castor. There you go. I have Nina Jeniton to represent Jean, her husband, 2005. There's Nina. I have Marilyn Weld to represent Greg Weld of class 2005. Okay. Then I have Linda's not here, but she got sick, but she was going to represent her dad, Jerry. I have Fred Broski of class 2006. I have David McMasters for his mom, Joan Ellis, and his dad, Clyde Ellis. I have Tawny Lovejoy. Is she here? Is Tawny here, David? Tanya? No. Okay. Rick Darling, class of 2012. And okay, then I have Lyle Farron. He's representing his uncle, Wes Farron. I have Diana Green, of class of 2013. Terry Watland, of class 2013. I have Terry Lose for Linda Lose, his mother, of 2013. And I have Jan Woodward for Woody Woodward of 2013. I have Bobby Lane and John Lane and myself for the class of 2014. I have Martha McVeigh for Jim Bay of 2014. Come on, Martha. Okay. I have Tom Charles from 2015, Bud Castor from 2015, and Dale McCarty from 2015. Okay. I have Bob Baker and Debbie Bergman from the class of 2016. I have Darren Christie and Junior Parkinson from 2018. I have Linda Howell and Skip Richardson from 2019. And I have Mary Marshall here for her dad, Grandpa, Al Burke, and I believe he was, okay. Then I have Joe Boyles for 2020, Marla Christie and Lope Christie for 2020. I have Mike Kraft for 2020 and Jerry Stone for 2020. Okay, I have Chuck Hines for Charles Hines, his dad, a pioneer of 2020. I have Lonnie Farley for 2022. Did Sharon make it? Sharon Reber, is she here? Okay. I have J.D. Cormack and Teresa Osman, T.O., for 2023. I have Bill Zelmer for his dad, Lester Zelmer, for 2023. Stand up, Bill. Okay, so I have a total of 27 inductees here and representatives of 13, so we have 40 here tonight to represent our inductees. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, you will see little notes on the table. There's a yellow peak or white one that says about pictures. After dinner, we meet in the hall back out there, and we take a picture of all our inductees and the representatives that are here. Then we sell the pictures for $5, or we could send you a JPEG through the email, and that's free. But you need to tell us what you want to do. Also on there, you'll see a little packet that has ambassadorship. It shows you what our ambassadorship is all about. That's there. You have a trifold that's there that tells you what the Hall of Fame is about. You also have a little white pamphlet for nomination forms. So if you have someone that you think is deserving to be in the Hall of Fame, the instructions are on there, the guidelines of who and what to do. Please take one of these home. You can also find them on our website, carbhalloffame.com. They're on there. You can print them off of there. We do have 50-50 tickets for sale, 1 for $1, 5 for $6, or arm length is 10, 2 arms length is 20. And I understand they're selling really good. We have t-shirts back there, and we have programs. T-shirts are 20 and 25, depends on which size you get. We have what we call a track t-shirt. It's their second one. The first ones we've all sold out, and those are on sale for $10. Programs are $5. So all that stuff is back there. Okay, so how the selection process is done. You send in this nomination form and fill it out, all the information. It is sent back, and then we take that form and we go over it, and we make sure that it's filled out with the next of kin, who the nomination was, the date. Please remember that when you do a nomination form, it has to be back in by the 1st of September of every year. On that, we check out the credentials, but we also ask that you send in any information that you have on that person so that we can check it out and get all that information. We put it together, put it in a pamphlet, and then we do a bio. Ray Cunningham writes a bio for everybody, and he puts it and we send that out. We send a ballot sheet out to our selection committee. Our selection committee is all of our past inductees, plus the board of directors. Plus we also have 7 to 9 people in the Kansas and Missouri area that goes to the races all the time, from the past, present on, that knows what's going on, and they vote also. With all that, we have a total of probably about 70 to 75 people that vote. The only restrictions is that that person that is voting, they cannot be related to them in any way. If they are, they can't vote for that person. Those ballots are sent in, then they have to be in by the end of November. The 1st of December, we get together, the board gets together, and anybody can come to this meeting. We go through the ballots one by one. When they're sent in, the ballots are not opened. They're sent in to the secretary. She puts on that envelope the date that arrived. They have to be there by the 31st of November. And if they're not, that ballot is not counted. Okay, it is checked by 3 people to make sure that all the information is there, that they're not kin to them, they cannot vote for them. You can vote for 1 and up to 8. Okay? If you vote over 8, your ballot is thrown out. So make sure you count who you're voting for. All that is put in. My vote is never counted unless there's a tie, and then my vote is counted. But believe me, I think it's counted one time since I've been here. So it's done all fairly. You're more than welcome to come to this meeting while we do this. We open it up. We actually had Kirk Elliott come this year, and he saw how it was done, and we just make sure that it's as fair as we can. So that's it on the nomination form. Before dinner, we will induct 5 inductees. We have a total of 9 tonight, which 8 is our inductees and 1 is a pioneer. The reason we have the pioneers, when we first started the pioneer, we were supposed to do it every 5 years. Then COVID set in and we didn't get that done. So we've been trying to catch up, and so then the board decided to just every year add another pioneer. So that's what we're doing with that. After dinner, there will be the last 4 inductees done. And then basically we're done after that. I want to thank, first of all, Marla Christie has been our caterer for years. We set her, give her a hand of applause. She has excellent food. We set her down this year and told her she can't do it anymore. So Pete Howie has taken over. He also does the Meals on Wheels for Christie's, and he's doing an excellent job. She's been teaching them, but the whole time Marla has to sit down. After this year, she is just with us. But Pete's a good cook, and people that are with him, we still have Brenda. She still helps too. But I hope you guys enjoy the meal. And then, so Pete, I want somebody get Pete out of the kitchen. Can he hear me? And bring his crew out.
Let's go with Dinah, Pete. Get in here.
I need everybody, Pete. Bring the whole crew. And look, Marla's in the kitchen, and she's been told to stay out of the kitchen. We caught you again, Marla. Okay, so Jody, she is a helper. Pete is the main guy. And this.
I'm Melissa. I'm Brenda Johnson's daughter.
Okay, and then Mark. So they're going to take over for Marla, and I know she's not taught them all of her secrets. But anyway, so Pete, thank you guys. Okay, so at this time, I would like to introduce to you Kirk Elliott of Racing Boys. He has been our MC for how many years, Kirk? He can't count. It's more than 2 hands. But anyway, everybody have a good night, and this is what we're going to do, guys. Kirk's going to read your bio, the inductee's bio. We have presenters that are coming up. As you remember, we sent a sheet out and asked you as to who you wanted to be your presenter. The presenter is past inductees, and basically these are people that have gone with you, helped you with racing, all this stuff and everything, and these are the people that you wanted to give you the plaque. So when he starts, JD's going to have the presenters come up. You're going to come up on the stage. Everybody's going to come up on the right-hand side, and then you're going to come up and get your plaque. And we also have a notebook, which I didn't say anything about the notebook. The notebook up here, I'm going to hold one of those up. Notebook, just a notebook. Okay, in the notebook, it has the nomination form in it, the questionnaire that they filled out, and then pictures and stuff that they have. So that's basically the history that we have on them. The inductee gets a copy of that book, and then we have a copy for our Hall of Fame. So anyway, here is Kirk Elliott. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Karen. Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? Glad to have you here once again. This is the 21st annual Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And as Karen pointed out, we've got 9 inductees tonight, and we're going to get started right now. And the first one is Vernie Covert. Born in 1941 at Topeka, Kansas, Vernie Covert raced from 1958 to 1977 driving jalopies, hoodoo wagons, later called super modifieds, and late models. He was also a car owner, builder, mechanic, and sponsor, with support aplenty from several family members and friends in the racing fraternity. That period spanned 3 decades and 6 presidents, but almost ended that first season of competition when Covert suffered a terrible brain injury on September 5th at Shawnee Speedway. The 16-year-old chauffeur was just a few weeks away from winning Rookie of the Year at Shawnee Speedway before the accident that almost ended his life as well. Covert stated that he was unconscious for 11 days and when he awoke, remembered nothing. Unfortunately, the brain injury was severe enough that Vernie was an outpatient at the Menninger Clinic for a year, slowly but surely getting better after it was decided that the bone fragments from when his skull was pushed back out were causing most of the issues. Over that period, Vernie would get married to Ruthie and also started to work at the Goodyear tire plant. Vernie never stopped going to the track during that time, however, and when he was in good enough shape, returned to race again against the wishes of many friends and family members in the early 1960s. But thankfully, he never suffered another serious accident. Covert's motto for racing had always been, "Give it hell and turn left," something Vernie learned from great drivers including Topeka IMCA National Champ and Knoxville Nationals Champ Thad Dozier. Vernie really gave it hell in 1970, racing with the IMCA Late Model Stock Car Division to finish 7th place in points with his underfunded team. Over his career, Vernie would also race in 7 states that included Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, where he set a track record, Texas, Iowa, Wisconsin, and California. Before his retirement from racing, and now one of the greatest accomplishments in the sport, tonight Vernie Covert is being enshrined as a Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Famer. Here tonight to accept the honors are Vernie's children, Vernie's grandson, Kyle Covert, and also we've got Karen and Kevin Covert here as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the family members of Vernie Covert, our first inductee in the 2024 class of the Hall of Fame. Here to present the award is Hall of Famer inductee J.D. Cormack. Kyle Covert is here tonight. Kyle, let's stand over here to the side. And you want to read a speech from your grandfather.
Yeah, he had wrote a speech right before he passed away, because this was a pretty important moment to him. I am honored to accept this award on behalf of my grandpa. I know how important and proud he was to receive this award. Racing has been such an important part of our lives, friendships, memories, and wild adventures. Unfortunately, Grandpa passed away this last week. I can guarantee while in the hospital, everyone there knew he was a race car driver and stories were told. Grandpa has been working on his acceptance speech, and I would like to read it for you now. First of all, I would like to thank my great wife and kids, and all I ever wanted in life was to race. Then Ruthie changed my life. She was in first place and racing was second. Then my kids came, so racing got put back to third. We gave our best, just like everything we did in life. We gave 100%. God, I can't tell you everything we did to make money to race, but I'll tell you, it was some of the best days of my life. Thank you.
Yeah, our sympathies go out to you and your family, Kyle. He had a lot of big moments in racing, and the Covert family, a really big racing family too. Just kind of talk about the family aspect.
Well, I mean, if you're a Covert and you don't race, you're kind of the oddball out. I don't know. Grandpa Ray, he's got started by getting his dad to sponsor a car down the road while he was a kid, and then it's just been snowballed from there.
Congratulations to you and your family.
Thank you.
All right, let's go and make the presentation here. Ladies and gentlemen, how about another round of applause? Bernie Covert, our first inductee into the Hall of Fame. Kyle Covert accepting on his behalf. Our next inductee is Pat Cunningham. He's the pioneer inductee for the 2024 class. Little Pat Cunningham was one of the biggest racing stars from the heartland in the pioneering days of racing in the 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s, while ushering in the track roadster era after World War II. The diminutive driver from St. Joseph, Missouri, was known for his fiery red hair, personality, and driving style. In the 1920s, Missouri native Pat Cunningham, known affectionately as Little Pat, started his racing career. Cunningham drove first for the Lawhons of St. Joe, later owners of big cars driven by C.A.R.B Hall of Fame inductee Herschel Wagner, among others, and then in the powerful Frontenac of St. Joe's C.O. Bennett and Eddie Burback. Early on, Pat was known for his driving style, which featured him hanging his head out the left side of the cockpit. Cunningham became a legend at Belleville, Kansas, among other tracks, where he held a 4-year-long winning streak from 1926 to 1929. Pat also became a midget star soon after, first driving for Kansan Leonard Curbs in the K1 midget, winning races throughout the country, and then later when the car was sold to Jack Keys. According to Bill Hill in the book One Tough Circuit, Pat Cunningham was one of the original competitors at Olympic Field in 1935. Later, Cunningham would go on his own streak at the new Olympic Stadium when he won 3 straight for Topeka Slim Tony Galata in 1969, or that's 1939, while also winning twice at Riverside Park that season. Crisscrossing across America, Little Pat became a midget star in California as well in the 1930s and became famous nationwide in 1936 when he took his midget to the race against the big cars, sprints, and ARA action, winning the 100-lap feature at Oakland Speedway in California after losing and being invited up from the Southern California to bolster the car count. After World War II, Pat returned to the KC area to race in Bud Wilson's Pony Express Roadster Club, running at tracks including Heart of America and Olympic in KC, and fairgrounds ovals including Savannah, Bethany, and the Mid-America Fairgrounds. And during this later stage of his career, he would battle young racing stars including Junior Hauer, Herschel Wagner, Johnny Tatlock, Scotty Scoville, and Bill Winstead of KC's favorite great burger joints. As a youngster, Ray Boyles attended many of these races as both a spectator and later a stooge for Herschel Wagner and his uncle Junior Howard, and related one of his favorite stories from the track roadster era, which involved Pat Cunningham being planted up in the grandstand as a drunk fan who would challenge drivers, including Wagner, to a match race. Of course, the whole thing was planned by the promoter. Wilson planned all this, and to add excitement to these programs, which sometimes had as few as 7 and 10 cars in the program. And the ruse would involve the announcer asking the crowd if anyone wanted to challenge one of the top drivers to the series, and that led Cunningham stating that he would in a slurred voice. That followed with the diminutive driver stumbling, bumbling, and fumbling his way to the track, getting in the challenge car backwards, and so on, much to the delight of the crowd. Of course, once the race started, Cunningham drove the wheels off the car, going wheel to wheel and hub to hub to the checkered flag, entertaining the crowd to no end in a near photo finish. After Pat retired from racing, he settled for good in Southern California, passing away in 1972. He was survived by his wife, Dorothy. Pat Cunningham, a significant driver in open wheel racing during his pioneering days, which included into the High Banks Hall of Fame in 2000, and now the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame of 2024. He is our pioneer inductee of the 2024 class, here to present and accept the award, C.A.R.B Hall of Famer Rick Darling. Pat Cunningham, our newest member of the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. Say again.
You might mention that I could not find any relatives, living relatives. If anybody knows of anything, let us know.
If anybody wanted to come forward and say anything about Pat Cunningham, we couldn't locate any of his past relatives, but if anybody would like to add to this presentation, please come forward. Pat Cunningham was before my time, folks, but a lot of great stories. Sound like a great racer. We will move forward to our third inductee of the night, Richard D. Howard, a.k.a. Richie, also known as Rick, born on September 2nd, 1959. He grew up in a racing family that included his father, Dick Howard, a future C.A.R.B Hall of Fame inductee, and over the years that followed, Rick would achieve as a mechanic, engine builder, car owner, car builder, and driver. By age 13, Rick would show the mechanical prowess that would become a big part of his own racing legacy over the years. According to Bill Goodson Jr., it was at this age that Rick started to work on his dad's race cars. He would later build his first winning motor for a fellow competitor from miscellaneous parts in his father's garage, and after that was accomplished, the younger Howard would build his first race car from the ground up, as well as the trailer to haul it on. This was all accomplished at the small garage located at his parents' house. Over the years, Rick would race successfully at tracks that included Lakeside, Lynn County, Missouri State Fairgrounds, Marshall, Moberly, Topeka, and Knoxville, among other various venues across the country, racing his wing sprint cars. Among Rick Howard's many accomplishments in racing were 2 Most Improved Driver Awards and the Mike Hill Memorial Award in 1981. All that was followed by 3 track championships, including the 1986 and 1989 season points championships at Lynn County Speedway in Pleasanton, Kansas, and the 1990 track title at the Moberly Motorsports Complex. In 1991, Howard would win the opening night feature at the Wheat Shocker Nationals in Hutchinson, Kansas. After Rick put away his helmet for good, he would become a mentor and assist racers in the setup of their cars and with driving advice. Rick Howard also was involved in the painting of race machines and the painting of vintage cars for the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum in Knoxville. And while being involved in racing for over 50 years, he is now a Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Famer. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the stage our next Hall of Fame inductee, Rick Howard. And here to present the award is the 2016 Hall of Fame inductee, Bob Baker. Congratulations, Rick Howard.
Thank you, sir.
Quite an honor. What was your first thought when you heard you were going to be a member of the Hall of Fame?
Unbelievable, just the racing community is just a great community that I still want to be a part of, or still are, but I still am. And just to be nominated was great, but for the fraternity of the Hall of Famers to vote me in, that sells a lot to me. 'Cause I don't think I deserve this stuff, but I don't know.
Talk about your background. I mean, you come from a racing family. Your dad, big racer, so just kind of talk about how you got involved.
Well, just in the garage, just playing with race car stuff, and that's just what I did. I never, growing up, that's all I did. I didn't, like in high school and out of high school, I didn't go out and party. I didn't go to bars in the weekends. I went, I built a race car. That's what I did. So, I don't know.
A lot of things changed over the years, too. Building those race cars, kind of talk about that.
Well, that first car I built I didn't know what I was doing. It was junk, But, you learn, and ended up buying chassis, and that made a big difference. I didn't have the equipment to build what I did, but not knowing how to do something never stopped me.
What was the best race car you ever built?
Well, I only built one, and it taught me that I don't have the equipment to build it, so we bought them from then. But, the cars that we bought, we bought my first car that I bought was a Trossel, and he built great cars, and then bought one from Brian Chenet, and it was they were all good cars. We won in all of them, except the car I built. But, now things have changed so much it seemed like way back in the day you could build something, and if you had the equipment you could still probably do it today. I didn't have it. We didn't have the money. I think people thought we had a lot of money because our stuff looked good, but we just worked hard and made sure it was pretty, but there wasn't any money there. So.
And you had to grow up at a time where you had to make a lot of stuff on your own, right?
I made a lot of stuff myself, you know. But yeah, we bought very little. Never, we never purchased motors. We just bought parts and had the right machine shops that we figured out how to, we had 2 or 3 different machine shops that we go to depending on what we needed done, and did our own motors. And at the end, we had some good motors, but.
Hey, Rick, people in the back can't hear you, and they'd like for you to explain it all over again, please. Hold the mic closer.
Here, we'll hold it close. Go ahead. We noticed the Wheat Shocker Nationals. Hutch, that was a big race. Are there any other races that stand out, and what about that race?
Well, the best part about that one was it never was about the money. It's just about winning or racing and who you're racing against. You know, it's the competition, and the reason that it's neat is who was there and who you got to beat. You know, and because in this area there's plenty of legends to race against, and we got to race against some great people, and when you beat those people, it's kind of makes you proud.
Talk about the people here helping enjoy this with you tonight.
I have a lot of people down here that came up from out of town that come from from very first race car, helped me build my first race car. You know, so they're still with me. So I don't know, I must have done something right because they hung around. I didn't run them off. I can't talk.
Final thoughts about what this means to be a Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Fame.
It's just a wonderful thing. You know, it's a great community. I'm glad I accepted into it.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Rick Howard, ladies and gentlemen, good job. It's time for our next inductee. Ray Cunningham was born in Hutchinson, Kansas, and grew up on a family of racing enthusiasts. His father, Vernon, competed in motocross and taught his son how to ride a dirt bike, while his mom, Loretta, competed on occasion in powder puff events and kept detailed programs at the racetrack. Both parents documented the racing action with photography that has later been used in periodicals and books. During his childhood, his sister Laura accompanied the family as well to motorsports events across the country and developed her own love for racing that continues to this day. Among Ray's favorite venues growing up were Lakeside, Olympic, and Topeka Fairgrounds, and Shawnee during the golden age of super-modified racing, while enjoying the racing exploits of future C.A.R.B Hall of Famers John Backlund, Dale McCarty, Rayleigh Goodwin, Junior Parkinson, Jerry Stone, and Tiger Bob Williams, among others. After studying journalism at HCC and KU, Ray worked in sports and news at a radio station in Pratt, Kansas, and then on to television at Topeka's ABC affiliate and Wichita's NBC station in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Later in the decade and into the new millennium, Ray also worked for ESPN doing the KU coaches shows as a videographer. About 20 years ago, Ray turned his passion to motorsports into working for halls of fame that would include, over time, the BCRA, High Banks, and C.A.R.B halls of fame, while also writing for Vintage Oval, Flat Out, and Dirt Monthly, as well as an editor for The Offie Killer by Donna Wilson. In 2013, Ray joined Ray Boyles promoting racing and its history in the KC area with media coverage for the All-Star Midgets and the Legends from the Past series, which included 4 books of stories about some of open wheel racing's greatest legends. Over the last 10 years, Ray became a correspondent for the Racing Boys, covering racing around KC as well as the Belleville Nationals, while from 2020 on, the Kansas native would take over the role of media director and announcer for the MWRA Sprint Car Series, and would also be on the mic at the Belleville Nationals as lead announcer for their 2023 event. Starting in January of 2019, Ray became a member of the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame board, joining his good friend since childhood, Dave Tyson, and a few years later started writing the spotlight stories for the Ambassador Series under the direction of the Alphabet Twins, J.D. Cormack and Tio Osman. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now to bring to the stage my good friend Ray Cunningham, our newest Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Fame inductee, and presenting the award from the inaugural class of 2004, John Backlund. Going to be presenting the award tonight to Ray.
Okay, guys, I hear somebody's phone.
That's your
Wheel
husband's.
silencer off.
That's your husband's.
Oh.
You can't stand up very long. He's a professional.
Go ahead and there you go. Wow, you're a Hall of Famer now.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe. You talked about my friend Dave Tyson, so that gets me emotional. And so anyway, but he got me involved in the Hall of Fame as well as Tio and JD. So I've really enjoyed that. And of course, working with the other Hall of Fames and all the racetracks and clubs and the Racing Boys working with you and Scott. That's also been just a great time. Very lucky to get to do all that stuff.
Yeah, and of course, we're thinking about Dave, too. He was such a big part of this as well. And, you know, he's one day going to be in this along with you. I have no doubt about that. But just kind of talk about what it's like to live here in Kansas City. Such a great racing town all over the country. A lot of history here. And just what it's been like to grow up in Kansas City as a big-time racing town.
So it seemed like I grew up here, but I grew up in Hutchinson, but we came up here on a lot of weekends. We stayed with Del McCarty a lot. He's sitting back there. And of course, over time, made friends like Sam Helmuth out there. A lot of great Kansas City people I knew as a child. And then when I had a chance to work with the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame, of course, I took that to honor these great individuals. I got to see races at I-70 when it was paved, then dirt, then back to pavement, and now the new track. Of course, Olympic Stadium, Lakeside, Shawnee, the Topeka Fairgrounds, my all-time favorite racetrack. And Vernie Covert, going in with him and him being from Topeka, several great Topeka racers. So all of that means a lot to me, and it means a lot to me, all the people that could show up today that have been involved in racing since my childhood.
And thank you for keeping the history going because, you know, I'm thinking about Bud Honeycutt. We lost Bud and Keith this past year, but Bud was such a great historian. His book, Up on the Wheel, and it's very important to keep those stories going. Bud was such a great one for doing that, and how important it is to keep the history together as we move forward. I think the rest of us have to do that. Hang on. Hello? We just had the batteries go out. Thanks for your patience. Okay, let's continue. We had to get the batteries replaced.
Yeah, a little pit stop there. I want to thank, before I forget, of course, John Backlund for nominating me, as well as Justin and Nicole Lawson. So that was great of them, and all my friends and family members, including my wife. They showed up today, some as far away as Bob and Donna Mays came all the way from Lincoln, Nebraska, and Jerry and Judy Stone came from Tulsa, Oklahoma, though I've known Jerry since I was a little kid. We share the same birthday, July 1st, so when I found out that was his birthday like mine, he became an instant favorite at that point.
How difficult is it to get the story? I mean, we had little Pat Cunningham here just a little while ago, inductee from the 20s, 30s, and 40s. How difficult was that to get information from the pioneers from back, 6, 8 decades ago?
Well, it's always been a challenge, but you have people helping you out, like Chuck Hines is here today. He helped out with his father, who was in our pioneer class of 2020. And then, of course, Pat Cunningham, Bill Hill, who's in the Hall of Fame. I got to get to meet Bill and then also have some access to a lot of the things he did. And that helped out. And, of course, then guys like Ray Boyles have helped me out. He told me many a personal story, and his son Joe's here today as well. But like he told me that story about Pat Cunningham being up in the grandstand. I just love that. That cracked me up every time. I was hoping Ray could come and tell that story himself, because that's from his actual childhood. But Ray first went to Olympic at 1940 when he was 6. So he started telling me stories about things like that happened. That's over 80 years ago now. So, I mean, when people can tell you stories about things like that, personal stories, so that helps with people like a Pat Cunningham who, he passed away in 1972. That's 53 years ago. So just to find any information, it'd be great to have found a living relative for him. Of course, that didn't happen, but Ray and his stories, then guys like Bill Hill, and of course, Bob Mays did a great job with the Belleville book and had stuff on Little Pat, because she was a star there as well. And but yeah, and I'd love to be related to him, but I can't claim that, so I won't. But yeah, like the Cunninghams from Kansas City, Jack Cunningham, and all that, another great racing family. And of course, when Tiger Bob Williams, I was talking to different people about when he had that great season in '69, he was driving for Jack Cunningham. So. But yeah, so many great racers, from the stock cars, sprint cars, the midgets, the modifieds, but I was really big super modified fan as a kid. That era means a lot to me. That's why I put it in my biography, because of all the great racers and all these venues that are no longer with us. I loved the Olympic as a kid. What a cool little track, a former ball diamond, just a little bitty but a go fast track. And of course, Lakeside Speedway being built into the hill, and the original I-70 and the Topeka Fairgrounds and Shawnee. That was a racy little joint, and that was out in the country. And then of course, you and I have a shared love of Knoxville and racetracks like that, and the super modified nationals, as they called it then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about Bud Honeycutt's book, the great book that he wrote, Up on the Wheel, and what a great storyteller he was, and how important that is to the racing legacy, the book that Bud Honeycutt wrote.
Well, when I do that Ambassador series, I got to talk to Bud, and I asked him about writing that book and some of the people he came in contact with, and nobody told a better story than Bud, whether it was about Jerry Weld or Junior Hauer or Greg Weld or any local guy, Hollywood, Ken Williams, all sorts of racers. But he told me about the guy that called him and said he wanted his book, and he was from Two Dot, Montana. And Bud immediately asked him, well, is there also a 1 Dot? And the guy said no, but this guy, population of about 100 people, he got to talk to this guy from Two Dot, Montana, that wanted one of his books. But that book was great, and I'm glad Bud was able to write that. That was kind of on a whim. That wasn't something he'd really thought about it, but people knew that he had all these stories. And that's kind of how Ray Boyles and I got together for the Legends series.
And they're all told in Bud's voice, too, and just the way he would say it.
Exactly. And then when we did the Legend series with Ray, a lot of times I threw in stories from Ray about particular people if those fit the criteria. But so many great, and then I got to meet, members of the Kalia family and different family members of those great old-time racers from Kansas City that really started. They were the pioneers, and that's why it's cool to see someone like Pat Cunningham go in today, because he was a true pioneer of racing in this area.
And as many pioneers has been inducted into the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame, there's probably more out there that need to be inducted, right?
Oh, there's totally more out there that need their place in the Hall of Fame. I've talked to some of the family members of some of them, and I want to see them be able to get up on this stage. My favorite thing about being involved in the Hall of Fame is coming to these events and seeing the family members and seeing the pride and the joy, and then seeing guys maybe you've never seen in your life, but you've read about them, you've heard the stories, like Don Connor. I got the different articles about him and clippings. I never got a chance to see him race when I was a little kid, but I did see him race later in the 70s at I-70, but I never met him. I met him tonight for the first time, but it was great being able to tell a story about him. Not Jerry Covert is the brother of Vernie Covert, but Vernie Covert, I was very excited to be going in with him today too, and very sad for the family that he couldn't be here, but I saw him at the barbecue and he was already getting excited at having that opportunity, and I know he was really thrilled. So I'm glad that was able to happen. And that was similar to Thad Dosher. Thad Dosher got in the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame and passed away, but did know that he was going to be in the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame before he passed away, and his native North Carolina, even though he lived many years in Topeka.
And getting into the Hall of Fame, that's really the greatest race that anybody, if you get into a Hall of Fame, that's your greatest win, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, I can't talk about winning a race like my buddy Rick Howard down there, but so many great racers, and oftentimes they're quiet guys like Rick, and they don't really toot their own horn, so I try to toot it for them if I can, because they're definitely deserving, and so many people are deserving like Rick Howard. He's just an example, and of course his father Dick and many members of that family that have been involved in racing. So I'm glad for them to have this moment. I can't believe I'm having this moment.
Well, knowing you, Ray, knowing you, this isn't about you right now, it's about everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, because I'm just as happy just sitting back there and hearing all the stories as coming up here, but I also, I like coming up here because I believe this honors my friend Dave Tyson as well, that I grew up with since we were kids, and we worked together in this Hall of Fame, and we enjoyed honoring all these people and writing the stories and had many conversations. In fact, when I found out that he was going to pass away, I thought it was David calling me to talk about the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame, because we were getting ready for just before the vote, and you came for the first time this year to our vote and saw what that process was like, but instead it was his mom using his phone. But Dave was such a big part of this with me, and then of course my parents, not being able to be here, but that's part of life. But David was a big part of this. I know he was a good friend to the Racing Boys too, and you just had him on the air, I believe, the week before he passed away. So, but he was also a big reason why I got involved in this, and I'm glad to also accept this for my friend David, and hopefully in the future he will also get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he deserves it, no question about it. Well, congratulations, Ray. Final thoughts?
I'm just glad all these people showed up today. We always have a great crowd and great support, and I work with an incredible group of people in the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame that are very dedicated. including Karen and Rick, they're right down in there, and JD and T.O., and of course the Christies, who put on such a great, the food, and Pete Howie now taking that over. There's a lot of dedicated people that have kept this thing going and keep it thriving, so just glad to be a part of all of that.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir.
Ray Cunningham, ladies and gentlemen. Good job. John Backlund.
We're so blessed to have this guy here in the Midwest. He not only can do it, he does it.
For sure. Congratulations, Ray. How about that? This will be our final inductee before we have dinner tonight. So we're going to go to our fifth inductee of the 2024 class of the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. Don Connor of Shawnee Mission, Kansas. He was one of the drivers in Kansas City stock car racing history in the 1960s and 1970s. His accomplishments at I-70 Speedway were legendary, while he also would have success on the dirt at Lakeside Speedway as well. From the beginning, Don Connor was fast at the brand new I-70 Speedway. In 1969, when the late model division took to the high banks for the first time, Don led the way in his 1964 Chevelle, winning the first track championship over Fast Freddie Whistler. Success would continue in 1970 with Connor winning the national championship race at I-70 after an epic battle with Dave Wall while taking some $1,500 for the victory. That was a large sum of money back in 1969. Teaming with Ralph Suman of Suman Automotive over the years, Connor would have success for years to come, including winning the 1972 and 1973 track titles at I-70. The 1972 points championship turned out to be an epic one, as Connor and Johnny Pryor would battle to the final race of the season. Unfortunately for Connor, a bizarre accident almost ended his chance to compete. The week before the finale, Connor had fallen from his tow rig and hit his head on the asphalt surface below. Connor was unconscious after the incident before responding to treatment and making an amazing recovery to be cleared by his doctors for the final night of racing and the 100-lapper to finish the regular season. Illinois driver Pryor fell out early in the feature with engine failure, while Connor, who trailed by 39 points entering the main event, would finish third and take the track title once again. That championship would give Connor back-to-back championships at I-70 to capture his third title at the Odessa, Missouri track in the last 5 years. In an era that made I-70 Speedway one of the top-paid short tracks in the nation, Don Connor wrote his name in the record books on several occasions. That, over time, would also include stalwarts Dave Wall, Terry Bivens, Freddie Whistler, Tiger Bob Williams, Dick Trickle, Super Joe Wallace, Mark Martin, and Rusty Wallace, just to name a few. And now, he's an inductee in the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame class of 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome Don Connor. And presenting the honor to Don is 2019 C.A.R.B Hall of Fame inductee Skip Richardson. Let's step up here so everybody can see us here, Don. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I-70 Speedway, you were there when it first opened up. What was that like?
Oh, I loved that racetrack. It was a pretty good track, and we started out on dirt, my brother and I, and in an old Ford, and we spent more time cleaning the mud off of it than we did anything else. And we didn't know how to build it to make a run, so we was always last. So the I-70 opened. I thought I better go down there and race that. I kind of liked it a lot better. It was a little,
Yeah, that's why you like the pavement, right?
yes, it was very good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And, I talked about that getting hurt. Well, I went. They took me to the hospital, and it was Friday, and I asked him how long you going to keep me. He said, "Oh, you got to stay here quite a while. You got a bad concussion." I said, "No, I'm going to leave." And so I left, and I raced that next night and won the championship. And then I went down south, went hunting. I go to work Monday morning, and they said, "Well, you can't come to work. The doctor hadn't released you." So I go to the doctor, and he says, "You can't go to work. You got a bad concussion." I said, "Doc, I'm in trouble." And I said, "Everybody knows I raced Saturday night." And so he said, "Well, you go to work, but go on light duty." Well, hell, as the boss at General Motors, I didn't have to work. So I went in and talked to the boss, and the head honcho there says, "Well, this is the day you're going to decide if you want to race or work at General Motors." So that was my ultimatum. I had to quit. So I raced a race the rest of another year. I quit. So, but I loved it very, very much. Very, very much. Most fun I ever had. This means a lot too, though. I think very, very much for everybody.
Talk some of the guys you raced against back in the day. I mean, you were up against some pretty great drivers back then. Talk about a few of the guys you had to race against.
Well, I think my favorites was probably Bivens and Dave Wall and Fred Whistler and Vern Colbert, and a lot of those guys were really, really good guys. Really, and had a lot of fun with them. Drank a lot of beer with them too, and I didn't like doing that. But it was just lots of fun. It was a part of it I really, really enjoyed very, very much. I think about it a lot. Enjoyed it.
You watched racing change a lot over the years. Just even if you haven't been involved in recent years, you've seen a lot of changes. Money's become a big factor, hasn't it?
Yeah, money's a whole lot different now. Yes, it is. But it's kind of funny. If you won the feature at I-70, I think it paid you $500. Well, hell, that was pretty good money. I was getting tires sponsored and all the oil and gases and all that stuff. So Suman donated all his labor, but I had to buy the parts for the car. But it was pretty good. It was good times. I enjoyed it very, very much.
Talk about your relationship with Ralph Suman. That was a pretty big relationship you had there.
I met Ralph at, he was in a little shop in Argentine, had a little bitty shop, the old filling station, and he wanted to work on my car, and my dad was with me at that time, and we took it over, and Ralph done his thing. He said, "I think I can make this car run pretty good." I said, "Well, have at it." So he moved his shop down on 12th Street in Armourdale, and the car stayed there the whole time, but Ralph was a very, very good mechanic, extremely good. He was very sharp. And he was as dedicated to that racing as anybody was, really. He enjoyed it a lot, but he made fast cars. But later on, I got hooked up with Larry Miller. He was very good with the money and sponsored, and he loved racing as well. So just made it all fun. I enjoyed it a whole lot, very, very much.
I-70 Speedway, that was a fast joint. High banks, just kind of talk about getting around that track, especially when it was brand new, nobody had seen it before.
Oh, I thought that track, I loved that track. I don't know, I just felt comfortable there. It was just wonderful. I never raced anybody, a place that I liked better than that. It was amazing, really, but it was run by good people too, so I don't, the guys that, Jim Summers was the flagman there, and he was a super good gentleman. Very, very nice, loved racing. Clyde Ellis put an awful lot of time in that, and Bud Honeycutt, he done an awful lot for that place too. There are just so many people that made it what it was or is now. I don't know. It's just they were good people. Loved racing as I did, so unfortunately a lot of them are gone. So just the way it is. I loved it.
You got good people here helping celebrate tonight. Talk about who's with you here tonight.
I got all of my family. I think every one of them, my great-grandchildren and great-grandkids, everybody there. Thank you all for coming out. Everyone, thank you so very much. Enjoyed it. Yes.
Any of your family members into racing?
Pardon?
Any of your family members into racing?
No, they love racing, yeah. Oh, yeah, all of them do. Yes, they do. Every one of them, yeah. But this is the best race of all right here, so thank you. Thank you very much.
So when Ray and I were talking a little while ago, getting into the Hall of Fame, that is the greatest win, isn't it?
It's a wonderful thing. Thank you so very much. This means a lot.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Don Connor, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations.
Okay, guys, it's almost time to eat. Okay, I want to thank everybody for the pictures. I also want to remind everybody that if you would like a picture, sign up for it back at the back. They're $5 for an 8x10, or you can get a JPEG online. Not of the group? Okay. Okay, after we get done with the banquet, if you want pictures with your family, we could also do that too. So, we're getting ready. What? The family's email only, and those are free. Okay, so before we get started here, I've been asked that if you want any 50/50 tickets, guys, you need to get them now, and please go back to the merchandise table to get them. I want to tell you, we've sold a lot, so 50/50 tickets. If you want more, please go back and get them. Okay, so if everyone wants to sit down, get going, we'll get going here with our second half. Again, if you would like to buy 50/50 tickets, please go to the merchandise table. When's the drawing? T.O., when's the drawing? Okay, again, if I could get everyone to take their seats, we're going to start our second half of the program. So, Kirk Elliott, here you go.
Thank you, Karen. Okay. Say John. Everybody get enough to eat? Boy, how about the Christies tonight? Did they deliver or what? Great job. Great food. Yeah. We've got 4 more inductees to enshrine into the 21st Annual Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Fame. And our first one, after the great dinner tonight, is Charlie Benedict. Charlie Benedict was one of the great stock car and modified racers from the Kansas City area who starred at the I-70 Speedway in Odessa, Missouri, among other venues from the early 1970s on. Charlie was born in 1943, and after a stint in the U.S. Army in the early 1960s, returned home to Independence, Missouri, where he would later start his own auto repair shop, Charlie B's, in the 1970s, and also Benedict Motorsports in the 1990s. Benedict was a fierce competitor on the high banks of I-70, where he was later joined by his son, Buddy. Charlie was known for his Grabber Orange 88 machines, while his son, Buddy, raced blue cars with the number 86. I-70 opened in 1969 and became famous by stalwarts there, including Dave Wall, Terry Bibbins, and Don Connor, and naturally, nationally known competitors Dick Trickle, Mark Martin, and the Wallace brothers, just to name a few. Starting in 1972 and for decades later, Charlie would join the fray, racing first on pavement and then dirt. Then it was back again on pavement when it later returned to the original surface at I-70. Over that span, Benedict would race stock cars and modifieds, becoming a star in both. Benedict would also race successfully at Riverside and the old Lakeside Speedway, winning over 100 feature events over the years. Some of Charlie's favorite moments in racing came when he raced side by side with his son, including a victory at Riverside on the dirt. Charlie passed away at age 74 in 2017 while leaving a racing career and legacy that gave him a Hall of Fame caliber career. Here tonight, accepting the honor, are Charlie's children. We've got Buddy, daughter Barney Benedict, and Andy Benedict, his son, here tonight. And presenting is 2014 C.A.R.B Hall of Fame inductee Bobby Lane. I think Richard Lane is here as well. Ladies and gentlemen, here to John Lane. That's Bobby and John Lane, both here tonight to present the award on behalf of Charlie Benedict to Charlie's children tonight. Buddy Benedict, our newest member of the Hall of Fame. Percent.
If you don't mind, take it with all of it. All three of them. Everybody. Okay.
Who wants to say a few words about Charlie Benedict? We got Barbie Benedict. What are your thoughts about your dad going into the Hall of Fame?
Okay, well, I'm the 2-year-old in all the I don't know a lot of people, but I've heard every story there is. The one thing he would say right now probably is he always wanted to bring his family together with racing and everybody he knew. He was more a, paycheck to paycheck racer, not a $15 million truck pulling in. So it was more about bringing everybody together. And he loves this community, and he always felt like this was his home. And it may be, he may not be here, but he's here with all of us, and we're really, really appreciative of this.
Do you have a favorite story? You weren't there when you saw that race, but who's got the great story to tell?
No, I was there many times. He raced until the very end. I think my favorite part was actually his last race. It wasn't even really a race. Andy had a car, and he was racing, and Dad said, "Can I drive your car tonight?" And Andy's like, "What?" I mean, how many years has Andy said, "Can I drive your car tonight?" And Dad finally got to ask him. So when he went out on that last night at Grain Valley, it was just one last ride for fun. And that was probably my favorite part, is just seeing him get out there one last time for the fun of it.
And that's really why he raced, is he had a lot of fun.
Yes, it was all about the fun and the memories and just the community.
Well, congratulations to your family.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. He would love this.
Very good. Anybody else want to say a few words? Anybody? How about it, ladies and gentlemen? How about a big hand? Charlie Benedek. Charlie's family here tonight accepting the award. Again, Andy, Barbie Benedek, Buddy Benedek, all here on stage to accept the award. Congratulations. Racer Dave Ruppard was born in 1941, and his early years were spent growing up during World War II. By the late 1950s, Ruppard would become involved in drag racing, running cars that included a 1963 Chevy, followed by a 61 Chevy, a 67 Dodge Charger, and a 69 Roadrunner. Ruppard was a mechanically gifted individual and worked day jobs that included Shortman Dodge and Bud Brown Chrysler. At night, he could be found working on Bob Heinzen Racing, building engines for other racers and car owners. Ironically, through those endeavors, Dave conceived with the SCCA sports cars set. He connected with them and was offered many opportunities to race sport cars on road courses. Ruppard, however, was interested in open wheel racing on dirt, especially sprint cars, and in time would compete in both fuel-injected, alcohol, and on carburetor gas-powered machines. From 1971 until 1980, Dave would race, build, and own his cars, while also having guest chauffeurs at times. Ruppard would race at local haunts that included Olympic, Riverside, Lakeside, and the State Fairgrounds in Sedalia, and Topeka Raceway. He also competed at famous venues Knoxville, Belleville, Devil's Bowl, and the Ditch at West Memphis. Racing with the car number 45, Ruppard won at Topeka Raceway, that was Shawnee, in 1973. One of his biggest wins came when he bested Dick Howard, Dale Moore, and Bobby Lane one night after advancing from the B with the win to the main event. On that occasion, Ruppard stalked his prey like a big game hunter, executing a pass on lap 15 to go around all three of those drivers mentioned between turns 1 and 2 before cruising on to the victory. Ruppard, always the top competitor in the C.A.R.B area with the modified sprints, would also serve on the board with the Midwest Modified Sprint Association, while also following proudly later his racing careers of sons Kevin and Kendall. 2024 C.A.R.B Hall of Famer Dave Rupard passed away on March 15th, 2014, but we are honored today to remember this great Kansas City native for his numerous racing accomplishments. Accepting the award on his behalf, make welcome his children. We got Kendall Rupard, Kevin Rupard, and Karen all here tonight. Please join us on stage, presenting the honor once again, Bobby Lane. And John Lane, I think, is coming up. Dave Rupard. Come on up. Stand right there. Yeah. Move up a little bit closer. There we go. Congratulations. Who wants to speak?
You got something to say? Oh, Kendall.
Kendall, you were a racer yourself, right?
A little bit, yes.
Because what's the biggest thing people need to remember about your dad?
I think we did quite a bit with a little bit, and like my brother-in-law Rick said, we didn't have a lot, but we made our stamp in the city a little bit. My dad didn't drive for but 8 years or so, to be inducted would be great.
Yeah, I mean, an 8-year driving career, and to be inducted, that means he got a lot of things done in a short period of time.
We did. I got some trophies at home. I got a trophy dash from Belleville and quite a few other trophies that he had, and to my collection, his collection. And we did pretty good.
What was his favorite racetrack?
I was only this big and this big.
What do you think? Where do you like to ride, Kevin?
I was probably the biggest one.
The old Lakeside.
Yeah, the old Lakeside. That and Riverside, but yeah.
Just did he ever talk about what his favorite wins were, or back any highlights? The overall highlight of his career, Kevin?
Yeah, Cincinnati State Fair in '72, I think it was, or '71.
On the half mile or the mile?
Well, he got State Fair, yeah. That was probably the biggest one.
Who's here to help celebrate with you here tonight? Can you tell us who's here?
My mom, my wife, nieces, nephews, and the Howard family.
What does this mean for your family, Karen, to have your dad inducted into a Hall of Fame like this?
It's kind of exciting because not only I have my dad, but I have my husband, and I don't know that we've ever done that two in one night.
What if you were to ask him, what would he most want to be remembered by in racing? Any of you would care to offer that thought?
The help that he gave everybody else. I mean, he used to help everybody. If you needed it, he was there to help you.
That's the beauty of racing, being there for one another, right?
Yep.
And
We built a lot of our own stuff when we started racing, and he taught us that, we don't have a lot of money, but we got to build it. So if you tear it up, you better get in the garage the next day, So we enjoyed it. We had a good time.
any final thoughts of what this means for your family to see Dave Rupard go on the Hall of Fame?
It's an honor.
It's definitely an honor to have Bobby to present it is great too. Yeah.
What do you think, Bobby?
Dave was a great racer. I had a lot of races against him, and we rubbed each other's feathers a couple of times.
But he was.
I've heard the stories.
He was. Did you remember any story that sticks out a little bit? No, he's not going to want to repeat that.
Plead the fifth.
Well, congratulations. Yeah, congratulations, Dave Rupard, ladies and gentlemen, our newest member of the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. Thanks for Kevin, Kendall, and Karen for joining us here tonight. Dave Rupert. J.D. Green is familiar to many around the greater Kansas City area for his many endeavors in motorsports over the decades. It all started for Green as a 6-year-old in 1964 when he sat in Uncle Lyle's race car. That event still holds great memories for him today and was followed by watching his uncle compete and win from the 1960s to the early 1970s at tracks that included West Plains, Humansville, Kabul, and Mountain Grove. Racing for the Greens was a family affair and included his grandpa, dad, Uncle Kenny, and Uncle Warren. In 1987, J.D. would start his own career in the sport that continues to this day. Over that span, Green has been involved with organizations that include NASCAR, C.A.R.B, and USRA, among others, while being a multifaceted member of C.A.R.B, holding positions that have included Sergeant at Arms, Secretary, and President, as well as being a lifetime member. In 2003, while president of C.A.R.B, he appointed a committee to begin the process of what would become the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame, which would have its first ceremony in 2004, including 15 in its first class. In the early days of his racing endeavors, J.D. would race as a driver from 1988 to 1994, car builder and owner, and then as an official for the last 30 years, as well as media for the last 22 years. And during that time, Green has been associated with tracks that include I-70, Lakeside, Adrian, Lynn County, and I-35 Speedway. And with his knowledge as a former driver, Green understands racing from both sides of the fence. J.D. has been lauded for his work with many awards over the years, including Racing Awards, C.A.R.B Special Awards, and a coveted NASCAR Golden Wrench Award. Since retiring after 32 years of being an air traffic controller for the FAA, he also stays busy with racing, of course, his church, and being president of the Northland Festivals in North Kansas City. J.D. gives special thanks to his wife and C.A.R.B Hall of Fame inductee Diana Green for talking him into buying his first race car, as well as the Ellis family for keeping them involved in racing, and Bob Baker for hiring them, and Mark Olson for his leadership and letting a person grow in the sport. It's now time to bring on to the stage our newest member of the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. Make welcome J.D. Green, and presenting the honor to J.D. is his wife and now fellow C.A.R.B Hall of Famer Diana Green. Ladies and gentlemen, J.D. Green. Congratulations to you. You're both Hall of Famers now. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Let me say this. Having put a few of these on, thank you to the Hall of Fame committee, because this is a lot of work. And I know what they go through. So they need a round of applause. And Marla Christie, Pete, you guys did good. We figured out that Marla did the first one in 2009. and has been feeding us ever since.
And you remember the first one was the potluck. It was the C.A.R.B potluck. Remember that?
It was the C.A.R.B potluck. That's how we did it. The very first one was held in Finnegan's Hall, no longer there, gone. But we used to have, in March, before owners started thinking they could race in the cold temperatures, we used to have a season ending, or I guess it was a season starting, potluck dinner. And when we worked in 2003 to get this all started, and I'm going to tell you right now, Joan Ellis, bless her heart, but she was adamant, because when the very first meeting, the person I appointed, Steve Mitchell, and God love him, didn't want the name Central Auto Racing Boosters on here. And you talk about a war. That was the very first one. But we worked and we made it happen. March 6, 2004, we inducted 15 people. And it was just the most awesome thing. It's the most awesome thing seeing these people today. I got to meet Don Connor. And the interesting part was this morning, Snake Saturday, we had a Lad and Lassie event. And our sponsor was Climate Heating and Cooling. And the young lady, I walked up to her to thank her for being a sponsor, and she's like, "You like racing?" And I'm thinking, how does she know that on my hat, Daytona? I said, "Yeah." She says, "My grandpa's getting inducted tonight." And I said, "I'll bet you it's the Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Fame." She says, "How'd you know?" That's how small this world really is. And yes, it was Clyde Ellis that went to Bob Baker in 1995, because Diana and I were done with racing in 1994. And he went to Clyde went to Bob Baker and said, "You can't let the greens out of racing." So then the next thing I know, Bob calls me and says, "Oh, the class you just left, the Charger class, which your partner in crime was racing in. Yeah. By the way, you're the official for that class." And then my phone starts ringing. "Hey, we didn't have any problems, did we?" And I said, "I don't think so." But fast forward to 1996, we have this truck race at I-70 Speedway. And
the NASCAR Truck Series.
NASCAR Truck Series. And Bill and Karen Altus, Bill was the competition director, and they left with the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series to be officials. The following week at Lakeside, we have a USAC race. And this is how Bob Baker works, okay? Just so you know. He introduces me to the USAC officials as, "This is my new competition director." So anybody that's been upset with me over the last 35 years, it's Bob Baker's fault.
And you're still out there doing it. You're still an official to this day.
Yes, I'm still at I-35 Speedway. I have told the owners, number one, I'm getting old. And number two, I've got grandkids. I've got one of my grandsons here tonight, so I like to see their stuff. I've been putting racing ahead of family way too many times.
Hey, I can't let you go. Everybody's thinking about Bob Reber tonight. We miss him.
Yeah, I miss him.
Yeah.
I miss him at the racetrack. I miss him to this day. I was so happy when the Central Auto Racing Boosters named the Bowl-a-thon after him. Because the truth is, I'm an action guy. A lot of these ideas were not my ideas, all right? The Bowl-a-thon in 1994, Wilma Claxton, Jean's one of our, she at a board meeting says, "Why don't we have a bowl-a-thon? We need something for the racers to do." Well, that's a good idea. So I volunteer to go down and meet Mickey Finn and Jackie Taylor and Ron Harper, and since 1994, C.A.R.B has had a bowl-a-thon. Of course, that ended up, I got to tell you how I ended up being the Snake Saturday president. And Karen Darling was part of that, okay? She might not remember this. But in 2012, Mickey Finn came to Lakeside, and everywhere I went, my officials, and the last one to tell me that was Karen, JD, Mickey Finn needs to see you in the C.A.R.B suite. And I said, okay, we got a job to do. We'll get the job done. I'll go see Mickey when I can. Well, in front of 20 people in the C.A.R.B suite, this is how Mickey says, JD, I'm 84 years old. I've been doing Snake Saturday for 28 years, and I've decided you're my replacement. That's okay. And how are you supposed to tell him no in front of 20 people? So that's how I ended up with this role. And Fred Broski is here, and I've already told him this, but next Saturday, we need great weather, because it's Snake Saturday.
It's coming up soon, Snake Saturday. It's such a big, big event in North Kansas City. There's no question about it. I want to ask you a question. You know, the first Hall of Fame was started in 2004, and can you tell us the story of how we're here tonight? You were kind of in on the discussions to get this going.
Well, it actually starts with Diana and Joan Ellis, and in 2001 and 2002, we had people meeting at our house, some of the best times ever, having Ray Lee Goodwin and Luther Brewer sitting at your kitchen table telling stories. I wish we had the technology to have recorded all that stuff that I heard. But they wrote a book called The First 50 Years of the Central Auto Racing Boosters. Lee Fagala, it come to find out, also one of our inductees, Lee Fagala in 1969 suggested a Hall of Fame, but it had never happened. 2003, I became president. I appointed a committee. We had a meeting, general membership meeting, asked for volunteers, had several people, and we started meeting. And it's funny because you get into January and you've got all these nominees, which we had, and the form is very similar to what we started with then. Hasn't changed much. But we get into January and everybody's like, how are we going to select people? We hadn't given that any thought. So, I get on the phone. Vicki Davis was our vice president. And Diana, I ask her, and I ask your partner in crime, Scott Traylor, and there was Dean Merriman. I forget the fifth one. Who was the fifth one? Diana? Okay, Diana doesn't remember either. Anyway, those five read everything and came up with the first 15. And we went with that selection process until, I don't remember, Karen, I do remember this. Joan Ellis came to me and said, you're not going to be C.A.R.B president anymore. What are you going to do for the nomination and the selection process? And I went, and that's when we kind of went to whatever the format is today.
Yeah, and I will attest, it's an open process too. I watched the counting of the ballots, and it is very transparent, very open to this day.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I know all the work they go through. They do a wonderful job. They might not think it with me, because I can be controversial. I got my wife up here laughing behind me. But I am who I am, and it's just, hey, it's wonderful when you're sitting out there and you see these people up here on stage. I remember Don Connor racing. I was at I-70. When you go back all the way to Kabul and West Plains, 2 years ago, Greg Clemens did the C.A.R.B banquet at the end of the season. And the interesting part was, I never realized Greg Clemens and I were the same age, and he's telling stories about West Plains, Missouri. He and I had to be the same age, playing on the same benches together, and only years later meet up in Kansas City as racing people.
Yeah.
But I do thank my uncle for letting me sit behind that steering wheel, and I thank my wife who talked me into, well, okay, I got to tell this story. Very first race car I bought, I tried buying it in March of that year. Keith Dawson wouldn't sell it to me. 6 weeks later, it was still sitting there. And I said, do you really want to sell it? He says, I've got to offer it back to Scott Traylor. I said to Scott Traylor, I've heard that name. He wasn't the television star or radio star he was. Anyway, that was Memorial Day weekend. And he gave me till Monday to renege. And I wanted to, because I told my wife, I know what racing involves. It's not just buy a race car and show up at the racetrack. You got to work on it. You've got to take care of it. And I didn't know the first thing about stagger. I had people teach me with a coffee cup what stagger was. And I got to consider myself fortunate. And that's what I would like to see the older generation teach the younger generation, so that we have younger people here and we see this sport grow. But I worry about they get to race on their telephones, so it can't beat that.
And we can't go on without saying Diana was a good racer herself. She was out there racing.
Well, you called some of our racers, and this is the great part. We've been putting some of our video on CDs, and I will tell you right now, she was much more aggressive than I ever was. Maybe because I had to put both race cars together. And I don't want to take all night up here, but you can also ask her about the time that we got into it, because I blew the motor in my car. She was in a wreck with Buzz Caster. I had to rebuild the front end. And on Thursday night, the only thing left was a little bit of welding on her car. And we got into it, and this 3-pound hammer goes flying by my head. She missed. Might have knocked some sense into me, but you can ask her the rest of the story.
You're still here to tell the story today. That's the main thing.
That's true. There's lots of stories. I mean, as an official, the night at Lakeside, I'll never forget this story. A young man's putting on an illegal part, and I said, you can't run that. And he goes, yes, I can. I said, well, who told you you could? And he says, J.D. Green. And I went, what did he look like? Oh, he's tall, skinny guy. And I showed him my driver's license. He didn't put the part on.
You're in the Hall of Fame now. Congratulations. Any final thoughts?
I just want to thank everybody that voted for me, everybody involved. You guys have taken it a long way. I just want to see it continue. And it's a blessing. I'm just pleased as punch to know that where we started and where we're at today is one of the greatest things, and I thank you all.
Well said. Congratulations.
Thank you.
J.D. Green, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're down to our final inductee. Robert Bob Douglas was born on July 31st, 1947. In 1956, his dad built a race car that would eventually be known as the Supermodified. Later, that division would develop into the modern-day sprint car. The elder Douglas loved all things mechanical, and though never a driver, enjoyed his time in racing as an owner and builder. 30-plus years later, Bob Douglas in 1989 would start his business Rod End Supply. Rod End Supply is nationally recognized as one of the top companies in the racing supply industry. Rod End Supply manufactures rod ends, radius rods, and other specialty parts for many different types of racing. Besides Bob's business as the Rod End King, Douglas has found a niche in racing on the track with the Midwest Lightning Sprints. Lightning Sprints bridge the gap between the micro division and the traditional midget division. That class races with motorcycle chain-driven motors at a full-size midget chassis running with wings. Bob has been a driving force in the Lightning Sprint scene since 1990, as first a sponsor, then owner, and also a promoter. His love for this type of racing has helped nurture the Mini Sprint series for almost 35 years. Douglas is also known for his number 49 Lightning Sprint that has become a fixture in Kansas City area tracks that have included I-35, Valley Speedway, Central Missouri Speedway, Topeka Raceway, Nevada Raceway, among others. The Rod End King, Bob Douglas, is known throughout the racing world for his development and selling of racing parts, while also becoming prominent locally, regionally, and nationally for his great work with the Lightning Sprints, aka Mini Sprint Division. On his way to being inducted into the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame, Bob Douglas proudly carries Kansas City as his home as Rod End Supply, worldwide known in the racing industry. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our newest member of the Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Fame, Bob Douglas. Here to present the honor to Bob is 2018 Hall of Fame inductee Junior Parkinson. Stand up. Congratulations, Bob. What were your thoughts when you first heard that you're going to be a member of the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame?
Well, I was excited and surprised. Yeah, very surprised. Yeah, this is a great organization, and happy to be a part of it.
Your history in racing in the Kansas City area goes back a long way. Here we are in 2024, you're looking back on everything now where racing has transpired, your business, its role in the racing world. Could you ever imagine where you'd be today, Rod End Supply as big as it is, and everything that's happened in your career in racing?
No, not really. There's a lot of growth, a lot of time spent, and a lot of effort. A lot of effort, yeah.
When you got started with Rod End Supply, of course, racers back, many decades ago really had to make their own parts. There weren't a lot of parts sold off the shelf, but in 1989, when you started Rod End Supply, what was your vision at the time?
Well, mostly it was to try to supply parts to local guys that at affordable price, it was a good part. Yeah. And kind of grew from there.
Then you got into the Midwest Lightning Sprints, that class still going to this day. What are your thoughts about where we're at with the Lightning Sprints and the growth that it has had? Of course, a lot of mini sprint racing has really grown into an industry unto itself, but just your thoughts about when you got the Midwest Lightning Sprints going back when?
Well, I kind of got pushed into the job as a president, and I didn't know much about it. And we kind of started with that. I think we had 8 cars in the very beginning, but we keep trying to grow. It's the most affordable way to go fast. Normally you can buy a 1,000cc motorcycle engine from $4,000 to $6,000, and it'll run 2 years without doing anything to it, other than normal maintenance.
And racing really hasn't got any cheaper either, so it's very important that people have an affordable brand of racing that they can get into and sustain itself, right?
Yeah, I've always said that this is the most economical way to go fast, where we're running a second and a half to 2 seconds a lap faster than an A mod or a light model. And we run smaller track, we're running right with the sprint cars as far as speed and times.
Yeah. Now, Rod Supply, it's really a worldwide company, but how important is the connection with what you're doing now to the Kansas City area?
Well, we tried to, like I say, keep affordable prices for the Kansas City area, and, well, basically for everybody. And we try to keep a lot of inventory. A lot of people don't understand, but I've got over $2 million worth of inventory in the warehouse right now. And you have to have that, because when a racer calls you and says, hey, I got to have a part, he doesn't want to hear, well, I can get it to you in 3 weeks. He wants it now. So that's the reason why we do it.
It's hard to see into the future a long way, but we've seen a lot of change in racing over the past few decades. Where are we going from here?
Well, I hope they can kind of reel in these prices of motors right now, because that's the biggest problem that we have. When you've got to go out and spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a motor, that's hard to do. Especially you go out and run it 3 nights and blow it up. That's really hard to do. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing. We got to get the motor prices back in line so everybody can continue to race.
Who y'all got with help you celebrate here tonight?
I've got my wife and some of my kids and a bunch of my friends.
So again, what does this mean to be in the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame?
It's an honor, and it's great.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Bob Douglas, ladies and gentlemen. C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. How about a collective round of applause for all of our inductees tonight? How about it? What do we got? Got a drawing here.
50-50 drawing, and this gentleman right here is going to do the drawing, so get your 50-50 tickets out, guys. It's worth $285. We raised, hold on, $570, so half of it we keep, it goes into our fund, and then half goes to you. So this gentleman is going to draw.
Here, let's stand out here where everybody's watching here. What's your name?
Drake.
Okay, you're going to pull out the big winner here. Go ahead.
He's digging.
Shake it all up. Okay, what do we got?
Okay, we have ticket number 7681598. Who did it? Bingo. Okay, last 4 digits is 1598. Nobody? Oh, come on.
Somebody's got it.
It's a yellow ticket. Rick, are you checking my tickets? What? Okay, nobody's going to claim this? The number is, I'm going to read the last, 7681598. Ron Cavell gets $285. But you got to bring your ticket up to me. Thank you.
Any more drawings?
Okay, then we have the last 12 for the grab bag. I have Dale McCarty, Adam Frederick, Clay Bellaton, Rhonda Ross, Peyton Frederick, David McMasters, Trent Honey, Mike Miller, John Nestor, David Ross. Well, here's a good one. Dee Dee Charles, she wins every year. Rodney Hawkins, Kendall Rupert, and Kirk Elliott.
No way. I never won anything.
Well, you did tonight. You get a bag back.
All right. All right. So another great night.
Yep. Another great night, guys. Appreciate all of you coming. Be careful going home. Thank you for coming. Good night.